All right, welcome everybody. Previous meetings minutes have been distributed. Are there any comments?
I do have a comment. There's one more group of edits that Grace had on a couple things. Adding adding PM to the time rather than just having the times, which I've always done. The other thing, apparently, we're supposed to have the list of documents at the end of minutes. Now Grace is going to look at a way to basically try to have a link or a package.
What documents? Documents
that are being discussed at tonight's meeting.
The only official documents that the town record has is those submitted to the town clerk. Those are the only official documents of the town. We should probably discuss that.
Yeah, we can discuss it all.
Because if you hand something, the Form A to the planning board, you have to file a clock starting.
Yeah.
You have to file with the town clerk to make an official town document. So
yeah.
I'd like to make sure we know what we're filing.
Right.
If somebody sends us a letter and it's
right.
It's part of the package.
Yeah, we discussed meeting to find out more about what the law is.
Good. So do you want to?
So I would like to move I'd like to make the motion that we accept the minutes as amended. The amendments being the added addition of AM PM PM and the addition of the list if required, how required.
Is there a second to approve amended? Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Start with Margaret.
Aye.
Paul.
Aye.
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 And I'll make that unanimous. All right, treasurer's report. Margaret, you're on, or any changes?
I don't think there's been any changes since the meeting 2 weeks ago, other than a little bit of summary coming out. So
there may be changes coming up next month, but there shouldn't be any today.
Yeah.
Right. Planners report.
Yeah, I'll keep it brief. Been just on hold with the MBTA communities. We're working with CMRPC, but I'm going to begin that process up again this week. I have a meeting with them on Thursday. I'm meeting with Ty and Bond tomorrow, as well as the town manager and DPW director regarding the next round of Mass Works grant. And that's going to be for the extension of the sewer and water, as we've been discussing relative to Governor's Landing.
Important.
So that's what I'm working on.
Yeah, so get that done.
I have a question. You had also mentioned the housing.
Oh, I can't. That's not an official. We gotta wait for state to make announcements on that. But yeah.
Oops, sorry.
I'll talk about that probably in the next meeting.
Excellent. Thank you.
Teaser.
We do have one Form A. Everybody had a chance to see it. I do have one issue. The frontage is not shown on a straight line, and it is close. I have the two numbers together, but we need it on a straight line. Is there an applicant on the line with this? Do we have anybody speak to that? I think you do.
So what is the issue?
The measurement of the frontage is from this line to this line in a straight line.
Okay.
Take out the curve.
Okay.
He's got a 160 and he got an 84. And I have to add him up. 244? It's 240 for the table, and I'm not so sure. He's probably got it.
Yeah.
We need it in a straight line with straight line measurement. We just added that to the rules in May.
And it's signed.
Margaret, Paul, do you have that was distributed, but I can bring it up on the screen if you want as well.
Well, wait, was it in? I'm looking at Grace's email from 4/25 with a Google Doc attached to it. Was that where it was? I'm not seeing it there.
It should have been. Hold on.
yeah, I don't see it in the Google folder either.
Give me a minute. I'll just bring it up on the screen.
Great, thank you.
We have driveway access with the locus. We have the data table signature locus up there. So everything's missing except the only thing. Everything's fine except for me, except for the straight line measurement on the frontage. Could also put the 80% thing back here. That no building, you can't put the house back here because it narrows to more than 80% of the frontage. So it should be there, 80% rule. In other words, no building beyond this point. Is the second thing. To do that anyway. Driveway only shows here. Any comments? You guys can see that?
Oh, hold on a second. I'm still trying to bring it up.
You are.
I already came over. Here it over your shoulder.
All right.
My only two comments are it shrinks to less than 80% with that, at the very end.
Yeah.
And the straight line measurement is not shown.
Is the applicant here?
No. And we would have to vote on this because, the 21 days will be gone before we meet again.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask.
I can always reach out to the applicant. Well, I mean, you should probably vote, yeah. But I was gonna say, I can always get it extended by reaching out to the applicant. I did have somebody drop Form A off today. Obviously, it wasn't on for the agenda, but I had them sign something saying they're okay extending to the 23rd. The time to review. So,
Any comments
I'm gonna
from
handle it.
the board? Billy, is there anything other than those two items?
Is there a driveway? I see it's proposed driveway location. Is there a?
Well,
yeah,
the profiles above, the profiles on the top.
yeah, well, yeah. Mike zoomed up there for me. And surveyor stamp?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Those are the only comments I would have had. So do we vote to not to endorse? I would move that we not endorse it for those reasons.
All right, I'll second that for discussion. Any discussion on the motion to not endorse the plan due to it not listing the front in a straight line and not showing the 80% line for a house building?
Yeah, what if we flipped it? That endorse it subject to showing the straight line and is that your only concern, Tom, or
That's an interesting philosophy.
that way he could come in or she could come in with the revised plan and
They can always come with the revised plan anyway, once they make those and then get the endorsement. I wouldn't condition any.
The only question I have is, do they have to pay twice if we fail to endorse and then they come back?
They could ask for a waiver.
Yeah, that I'm fine with that.
I mean, you can also not take action. You still have time on it. You won't meet for the next. I mean, it'll expire before the next meeting, obviously, but I'll have time to have reached out to the applicant to see if we can get an extension to the next one. And if for some reason we didn't, I could schedule a special meeting.
Well, I would prefer to go with the motion not to endorse and
Because it's so close,
Yeah.
because I've got 244.
Mhm.
And I don't know if this jog from here to here takes off 4 feet. If it takes off 5 feet, it's a non-conforming lot.
Sure.
That needs a variance.
it doesn't make much of a difference anyway, whether or not they.
That was.
And we'd have to look at, we'd have to look at it again to make sure that they didn't make any other changes. So, I mean,
Yeah.
this is why most people come to the meeting, right? So we can have a discussion about what our concerns is and they can withdraw.
Mhm.
But they can't withdraw it right now. So I'd go with the motion on the table.
Okay, been moved and seconded to deny endorsement due to not conforming to zoning. All those in favor, say aye. Start with Margaret.
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
I
I'll make that unanimous. And you'll take care of you get the bad news.
I'll handle
That's your
it.
job, it's the bad news.
in your bad mood.
Okay, next we have sawmill discussion. Who's here from sawmill discussion? Welcome. Yeah, we actually, and I did look at it, like to get the members' opinions on this. Two reasons, they're smarter than I am. But I looked at, is there a building on there right now, like a showroom or?
There's a shed, but it's okay. No.
There's no primary use there, right? Retail store or building. All right, because even though there isn't, that would be your, well, that's your primary use. The fact, what seems to me what you're doing is you're asking for a secondary use. You're not, that's not, this is, I wouldn't consider what you're doing as a primary use of the property. It's a secondary use. The primary use would be a building, would be those general business. So I view you, what you're using as a secondary use of the property, which is allowed, in our bylaws under secondary uses. For you. It's 300-3 accessory uses and structures in a general business district. That includes light manufacturing, processing, assembly, and repairs, and is in connection with a permitted principal use. You don't have a principal use. Again, I don't think that makes this a principal use. Provided you don't occupy area exceeding 50% of the total floor area, major portions of the product are manufactured to be sold on retail on the premises. Is that true?
Yep.
And there are no more than 5 persons are regularly employed in such an accessory use. Is that true?
Yep.
I see you as an allowed accessory use that does not need a planning board or a ZBA permit. But I'll throw it out to the board. Comments?
So what's the accessory use that we're calling this, right? Because the accessory
Making
use.
furniture. Making furniture, correct? You make, what do you make?
We make lumber.
Lumber, making wood products. Is it
We
wood
have a
products?
portable saw.
Yeah. Well, again, I would consider your portable sawmill as the equipment and tools you use to manufacture your product.
Yep.
It's not a sawmill by itself. That's the equipment you use to do your.
We make lumber.
It's what you
And
manufacture.
what's the accessory use, Tom? I think it falls under.
It doesn't rise to the level of a primary use, and it meets exactly the accessory use according to its size.
So, but how can you have an accessory without primary use?
It's all, well, you always have an accessory. It's always there. You don't have.
But what is, I mean, there has to be a primary if there's an accessory. That's.
Why?
Because what's it an accessory to?
It's an accessory to the zone use of the parcel. The parcel is zoned general business and it is zoned to have principal uses. This would not be a principal use zoned. This would be an accessory use in the zone,
Okay.
whether there's a building there or not.
Is light manufacturing allowed in the GB district?
Yeah.
By special permit.
I mean,
Well-
that to me, that's probably where it should fall under, I think.
But they're not manufacturing. They're
Well,
cutting.
the manufacturing.
I'm still having a hard time with this though, because it says, provided that it does not occupy an area exceeding 50% of the total floor area occupied by the principal use, which indicates there has to be a principal use for there to be an accessory use.
Or if there was a principal use, it would that percentage would have to apply. Without a principal use, I don't know if you can use that 50%.
Well, yeah, but I'm not sure we can't skin this cat because accessory use in business districts, right? In a general business district, permitted accessory uses include such industry or light manufacturing as is usual in
Mhm.
yeah. This is the principal use, so it would be allowed.
It's the only use, but I wouldn't. It doesn't rise to the level of a principal use
Why doesn't it?
because it doesn't fall under the general business. Section that I saw that had the retail store, the professional building, the showroom, those things that are listed as general business uses. I didn't see that in there. I saw it light manufacturing as a ZBA permit.
So why wouldn't this be that?
It could be. That would be the toughest path would be you'd have to go to zoning board to get a variance or a special
I
permit.
mean, one thing, all things equal, there might be noise concerns, for example. I don't know if there's any of the butters nearby, but I'm curious whether the town planner has any thoughts on this.
It's an interesting. I understand Tom's point of view. Given the context that he's made that argument, that makes sense. the way that I am typically used to seeing these issues is having a primary use present on the property in order to then have the accessory use. Because as somebody earlier said, the accessory use needs to be accessory to something.
Who's to say that?
Sure. And in this, and I recognize Tom's point that under that, the section that I have posted up, so everybody's looking at, is accessory uses seems to be narrowly defined in this context in what Tom says, rising to the level of primary use.
Well, if I may, sorry to interrupt, but if you had a building there, it burned, you had this accessory use, you
Yeah.
had your primary building, the building burned down. Do you have to stop using your accessory use because the building burned down? You no longer have the building use on the property.
No, but you already had it. I mean, this is going to be a permitted accessory use include light manufacturing, which we've got here, as is usual in connection with a permitted principal use.
Permitted, not built, not have or had, permitted.
Yeah, in
Yeah.
connection. I'm focused on in connection with, so
Right. And it's
Mhm.
usual.
not
Yeah, and
standalone.
also permitted, is it permitted or is it permitted? I.e., is there a permit for a principal use already?
I would
So
say
like a school teacher. Yes,
Allowed.
very good.
I would read that. I would read that as allowed. That was my read of it. But an allowed principal use. I mean, I think that
Is this something that's in the concept stage or something that's already happening and you're just trying to make it work?
We're already
You're already doing it.
running.
So, okay, so there's that.
We've been running, what, 6 months? 7
Right.
months.
And any complaints from neighbors that you know of?
Just one neighbor on
Well,
the other side.
one is,
Yeah,
that's a number.
And one of the things that we have to look at, and Gary mentioned earlier, is impacts. When you have a principal use, you
Yeah.
might have a larger business, you might have more parking,
Yeah.
more traffic, and more lights and noise and stuff. So
Yeah.
a principal use generally drives the permits and the
Yeah.
plans. But if you got a town business, if you got like a business number already from the town clerk,
No, we don't.
Not too often.
Not too often. No hop. We can't.
The neighbor concerned, is it, well, what is it?
And just a noise
It
complaint.
is noise, okay.
That- He said we started at 7 o'clock in the morning and we don't start.
So those, I mean, that's falls square right smack in the types of things that a special permit application might address, or even site plan review for that matter, so.
well, and
Just to speak briefly, it's my understanding with this that, the owners of the operators of the property started this business about 6 months ago. They have a portable sawmill that's been, then they operate within daylight hours. It's an open air, they don't have a building. It's no building. And there's, when they saw lump, create either, sometimes
Mhm.
they'll put it together, hammer it together to make logs and stuff. And then what happened was that there was a person who lived on Glen Ave, and the noise, bothered them. During when the operation was. And,
Yeah.
I've been to the site and they're not always running the sawmill. It's intermittent. when
Yeah.
they're,
Maybe 20 minutes at a time.
20 minutes at a time, but it is during daylight hours. It is within working hours, and it is a zone where this type of stuff is allowed.
And our decimals are below 90.
90, well, that's 90's pretty high.
But usually-
That's standing
That's right on.
Yeah, I think it's 50 decibels at 50 feet from the property line, so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's below
so
that.
they're way below that. You can't even hear it.
Well, there is a noise bylaw noise standard in the
Yeah.
bylaw. It's not a good one, but it is in there.
I think it's 50.
50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, the more I'm thinking about it, if I was this neighbor, I would certainly wanted to have had this heard and throw in my 2 cents, and it might be nice, even after the fact, to have, the special permit granting authority weigh in on it whatever conditions they might have, just so you're gonna run between these hours, excuse me, for no longer than an hour at a time, or whatever their conditions might be, just so if we're down the road, if there's an excursion from that, then there's a decision in writing.
Well, I think what the purpose of tonight's meeting was to provide them with guidance.
Yep.
Of what they needed to
What's the
do.
next step?
What next steps. They're already working with Concom, to figure out some of the environmental issues they need.
Yeah, the reason, I'm sorry to jump in the chair, the reason for bringing them here tonight is obviously to have a conversation with the planning board, so the planning board could give advice or perspective to the building commissioner on how to treat the use, because sawmills are not a specifically listed use in our bylaw, right? And the use, so obviously we thought that the closest thing was light manufacturing, which has been the discussion thus far tonight. It's called out specifically in the section that Tom was noting for accessory uses. And so a little bit of guidance to the building commissioner, exactly what Kathy's getting at on how to proceed, and how you'd like them to proceed.
Yeah.
I'm with Gary. I do think it has to go to the ZBA. I'm looking at the section 3.2.1 accessory uses in all districts. And it's an accessory use with the meaning within the meaning of this land is either a subordinate use of a building, other structure or tract of land, or a subordinate building or other structure. So this does not meet the definition in my mind of accessory.
And it's because the primary use is not physically there on the property.
Well, yeah, and well, I also think this is the primary use, and I think it's an okay primary use. And I think that the ZBA will approve it, but that's where it needs to be approved. And because I think it's fair for them to, and it sounds like the owner wants to comply with reasonable and has been complying with reasonable conditions like, daylight operation and things like that. So I don't think it's going to be a big problem. I think this board can probably, if the ZBA is handling it as a special permit, I don't know that we would need to weigh in with a site plan review as well. I think that could be handled by our function could be handled, so we're not double dipping. I think that maybe is the fairest way to deal with this.
And that's where we're running into. We have 8 different people coming, different departments, and none of them have the same idea coming together.
So
We're trying to figure out,
It's code enforcement's call.
I think we figured out what your path will.
okay,
And everybody listens to us.
We consider a ZBA permittable request.
Yep.
That it's that light manufacturing is allowed in, but only with the zoning board of appeals special permit.
okay,
Planning board would not be a part of it unless you needed more than 10 parking spaces or a 2,000 square foot building. Certain things would trigger a site plan to come back to us.
Yep.
But it doesn't sound like you're gonna again rise to that level of
Yeah, no.
site plan review.
there's like maybe 3 cars.
But to be fair to the neighbors, for noise, for sound, for traffic, for what's going on, just to let them know what's going on, you're gonna need you need a public hearing with the zoning board of appeals.
Okay,
So we ask, they meet upon request.
okay,
So, and what they say is gonna rule. Whether, and they're gonna go to conservation and say, and have them as part of make sure that you put your sand thing, whatever hay bales up, whatever you put down.
Yeah.
So I think it's a zoning board of appeals process and nobody else, right? It's not planning board. We would write out for the building inspector, zoning enforcement saying, we believe you should go to the zoning board of appeals
okay,
for a special permit to allow light manufacturing.
okay.
I think, Tommy,
Any questions?
just one clarification. I think that this would trigger site plan because it's a change in use, but I think we could essentially live with, this board could defer to the ZBA, and if they give a special permit, I don't think we would need a site plan review in addition.
Especially if they say it's an allowed accessory or an allowed primary use.
Yeah, I mean, it's a change of use, so it does trigger that site plan. So I think, if we just are copied on things as it goes along. If ZBA is looking at it, I think that's probably good enough, because we'd be doing
I
the
agree.
same. We'd be
What is, Paul, what is the change of use? I'm seeing is it's
not a sawmill to a,
it's-
I would just say not a sawmill to a sawmill.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even sure that is
Yeah,
the change of use.
Okay.
And just
I mean,
to know,
when you go from virgin land to something, right?
There used to be sawmills. I see the foundations of all of them, an old stretch of Warren Brook was sawmill after sawmill after sawmill. So I would say it's a historic use. It's just-
I am-
Going back 100 years, so I don't think.
Not-
it's
I'm
not-
a
not-
recent
not-
blow in from 1990.
Come on, it
Just,
was the big.
You'll be able to help with the zoning application. Mike will help you with the zoning application.
so they've been talking to Mike.
Yeah.
The whole night school, so I'm just kind of relaying.
All right, yes, we're, you don't want to see us expensive, will take a lot of time. See if you can handle it, you're better off with them.
Like I said, we're just trying to figure out our next step. You know what I mean? With so many people coming in and out, like, where do we turn?
Next step is to get the proper town permission to run your business, and that's the zoning board of appeals, special permit for light manufacturing.
I want to do that.
And we're gonna do a little.
And I can have them contact the planning board, or Mike, if they have any questions.
So
We'll take care of that.
to summarize through the chair, the board has determined this is a primary use, non-accessory use, requiring special permit through the zoning board and does not require site plan review.
Unless the zoning board says it does.
So we'll go with.
Thank you very much.
Everybody's good with that?
You guys are good with that, and let us know if there are any problems.
So hopefully you won't see us again.
And that's what.
Well, we see you walking down.
Yeah.
We see you down our street all the time. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, thank you. And
Another one might walk.
Thank you. That's it.
good evening.
I think so, right?
All right,
Yes.
East Street has estates.
Bye.
You have to open that. Continue it. They already.
They requested a continuance, and how have you been doing that previously? Have you been?
All right, I'm
opening
going
it
to,
for
I'm going to suspend the regularly scheduled meeting and reopen the public hearing for East Street Estates. And they have asked to continue it until
You should be in your packet.
May 23rd.
23rd.
I'm out on
Okay.
May 23rd, just an FYI.
I doubt I'll be ready the 23rd. But
Yeah, no, I doubt they'll make it either, but I just wanted, because it's important because Gary's term ends. And if I'm out, then it comes down to 3 members, so.
Think of the power we have.
Yeah,
Well, that's an interesting point because you need 4 votes, right? So can the new
Mhm.
persons just come in and
I
We
couldn't when I came.
You can't fire him yet, then I guess.
so you might be into that whole rule of necessity thing.
possibly.
When does your term end? Bill, No.
Scary.
so why do you think he's under your, you're not?
He's not.
I don't, neither. of
Well,
us.
he'd be the alternate on a special
But we
permit.
don't have an alternate.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
It'd be-
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
It'd be 3, 3. All right, so it's gonna be,
Change the zoning bylaw.
The East Street Estates is for a definitive subdivision, right?
yes.
Yeah.
It's-
You have enough members to vote.
Do we have?
But governor's landing's a special permit.
Governor's Land is a special permit, that will require, that might only require a majority vote because of the new law that went into effect, because it, the townhouses rise to the level of multifamilies that they, but that's the ZBA. That's the ZBA, not the board.
But it's gotta be within a half a mile of a public.
No, there was the change in the law relative to that was that you only need a majority vote in order to approve special permits that involve multifamilies.
Huh.
So that question is, does a townhouse, in the way that they've proposed it, rise to the level of multifamily? I'm not sure,
But that's not.
but
with
that's
us.
not this
That's
board,
not
that's
this board,
ZBA.
because-
This board's approving the senior housing development.
All right, because we have the meeting, this, it continued till the May 23rd, but the decision deadline till June 13th.
Yes.
Because we do it till the 23rd, and then we have 2 people that aren't here. They'll be excluded from voting on Margaret, have you missed a
Well, I
meeting?
can, if you do it on the 23rd, I can listen. I can listen to the tape. I've been here for the other
Okay.
ones, but
Okay,
not
so
that I
we'll-
think that East Street is actually going to come in on the 23rd, but
Okay, it'll be your first miss in East Street in the 10 years.
that I cannot promise you. I'd have to go back and look.
Yeah.
Because I know I watched one for something, but I don't remember what it was.
Okay, so there's their motion to continue the public hearing.
Can I just ask a question? What, do we know why they request extensions? It's still the retaining wall that's,
They haven't got anybody to sign up that retaining wall's safe.
okay, so they won't, okay, never mind.
Tony, did,
Guarantee it's not gonna fall in X number of years.
Yeah.
Because the soil needs to be tested together.
did they agree to extend the shot clock along with their request?
Yes, and that's till June 13th on the shot clock.
Okay, I would move that we approve the request and continue the public hearing to May 23rd at the time to be picked by the chair.
That'd be 7:05, and I will second that for discussion. Any discussion? Okay, any opposed, no, approve, aye? Margaret,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
and Kathy?
Aye.
And I'll make that unanimous. It, Governor's Landing, that is continued to May 9th, but we need to extend it beyond May 9th due to the town election day. Do we have it in writing from them?
Yes, that's the 23rd and extending the decision deadline to the June 13th.
The same thing?
Yep.
Same as the other one? We have a
Exactly.
motion, same deadline and same shot clock, same public hearing and deadline as the other one?
I would make the same motion with the chair to pick the appropriate time.
7:15. On the
So
20th.
this is all within the same motion, extending the shot clock and,
Well, they accept the shot clock, right? And we grant their request for continuance.
they extended the shot clock? Have they asked
Yes.
for it? Okay.
Yeah, and so there'd be two of them. One would be
Right, so there's two votes, right?
2 votes.
Okay.
Well, not really. They can just, don't they just grant the extension of the shot clock?
Yeah, you can do it all in one vote.
Okay.
You're
The vote's
approving their request to postpone the public hearing until May 23rd and extend the constructive grant deadline shot clock to June 13th.
2 votes, 1 motion, but yeah, we're voting on 2 things, and the motion is for both of them.
Oh, okay.
I
However you want.
I would ask, I think we should go through I'm going to need to go through the minutes on these two because I will not be here on the 23rd. And so if I've been out another time, I know I've listened, I think it was to Governor's Landing. So it might be my second miss on Governor's Landing because it's been going on for 14 years.
I'll reach out to Saks Landing and let them know that will likely be the case. And if so, they'll.
Yeah, they won't want to miss that. They don't want to get a no vote just because of that.
Yeah.
All right, so it's been moved and seconded to continue Governor's Landing until May 9th and extend the shot clock.
No, to continue it until May,
23rd
until the election.
23rd.
May 23rd,
Right.
excuse me.
at 7:15.
And then you're gonna see, okay,
Yeah, May 23rd and extend the decision deadline to
I'll second.
Okay, is that all those in favor?
Aye.
You voted, Margaret,
Aye.
Kathy,
Aye.
and I'll make that unanimous.
You missed a item on the agenda, vote on public hearing.
Next,
No, it was actually before this one.
where?
Last thing on the agenda items.
Yeah, that's next. That's what we're doing next.
Okay.
Next is vote on the public hearing, zoning article submitted to the town meeting warrant. We had the public hearing, just like to get everybody's final comments before we vote. We did get an update from the Board of Health, I think it was today.
Yep.
But if we could briefly go through, who do we have? Laurie, welcome.
I thought wasn't this withdrawn?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, no.
I don't think so.
No, sure.
Well, I'm
Okay.
gonna, motion if we want to make a motion.
Yeah, I just want to get the board's final comments. Any final comments from
You're open
Here's
to
the
public
close,
hearing
right?
again.
the hearing's been closed, so if we can make this as brief as possible. I'd just like to get everybody's final comments. It's been 2 weeks. Laura, you go first. Any updates or new information for us?
Hi, yes, I'm appreciative that you're going to have a vote. I had thought one of the reasons for the hearing was to figure out where this warrant article would go, where the bylaw change would go, and also to get it informed so we could amend it for town meeting. And the town council had mentioned something about that as well, so I don't know what we do with that. Couple of things that have come to the forefront. The Board of Health did send a letter, and I was appreciative of that. We had a good discussion. The idea of the WHO ruling, making a new ruling next year came up, as I think you know. Their cancer department, the International Agency on the Research of Cancer, had asked them since 2019 and then officially in 2020 for financing to do this study because they've been concerned since then. And they said the absolute last day you have got to give us the money would be 2024. And that's what the WHO decided to do. They put it off to the last possible moment. So all this time there could be being harmed and nobody is doing anything about it. Nobody from WHO is researching it. So that research, I guess, will come out next year. As you saw in what I sent to you, they fully expect there to be statements saying that it's probably carcinogenic or possibly definitely carcinogenic. So that's in some of the information that I sent you about the health section of it. And many of the scientists that were on the original panel are very anxious for this to happen because they're pretty convinced that that's the way it's going to go. So I think that's important. And I appreciated that the Board of Health did not, they were clear that they didn't have enough information to make an intelligent decision, and they were right to do that. And they said it needed more study, just like everybody else is saying. So
I saw
that's
they
what
they were firmly on the fence on this one.
Yeah.
they were firmly on the
Right-
fence,
right
as they
now-
should be.
Yeah, right now, we have both the Technology Committee and the Board of Health weighing in and saying they are not ready to take a position on this topic. And I think we should move the question, and I feel that we're continuing the
No,
public
but
hearing.
it's a citizens petition, so they're the ones that are gonna decide,
Okay,
and they're gonna decide the town meeting.
I'm always going to give, if the citizen petitions, I'm going to give them the last word before we go.
okay.
I do
One
it pretty
thing
much.
about the Technology Committee report that I think is extremely important is that it doesn't talk about non-ionizing radiation. And that's the kind of radiation that 5G has. It's only talking about thermal heating against the head, against the body, against the skin.
Unfortunately, Laura, these are the things that would have been discussed at the public hearing. So I don't want to bring up anything that we'd have, I think we should be reopening the hearing to discuss anything technical or scientific about this at this point. Those were points for 2 weeks ago. So I would like to, open it up. If you have to, I'd like to open up to the rest of the board to see what they think about what they've got so far. Is that possible? We can.
That's fine. That's great. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Paul, Margaret, anybody have any thoughts?
I'm not in favor of the warrant and a warrant article, and I think that it needs more work, and I am sure that the group will be back at some point, but I think I would vote for unfavorable action by the planning board.
Margaret?
Yeah, I'm really torn because I think that we really need something like this. We need to be talking about this. I just am not convinced that this approach is going to do anything at all. I mean, for one thing, these facilities are in the roads, so it won't apply to most of them if they go on phone poles. And I just, it just sort of saying that we're going to indefinitely delay this in a public hearing, I just don't see it working. I just don't see the courts agreeing with us saying it's okay to indefinitely delay this this proposal that comes before us. We're going to have shot clocks and we're going to have to meet them. So, yeah, I'm torn. but I think I'm gonna agree with Paul and say that right now, I really don't want to see something passed up public meeting and then get thrown out by the AG's office 3 days later or 2 months later, which is what I'm really afraid would happen. I'd rather a more complete proposal going forward to town meeting that I would feel comfortable supporting.
Thank you.
So I would agree generally with what Paul and Margaret said. I think if I understood the town planner correctly a couple meetings ago, if this does receive an unfavorable recommendation, that means in order to bring it back in a similar form, it would need planning board favorable recommendation. So that, I think that's another reason to recommend unfavorable reaction in this case. It puts it more in our domain, nothing against citizen petitioner that's done a fantastic job. But whereas we've got full-time planners, I think it is us to bring in your expertise. You've got access to town council. You know who the interested parties are. So I would vote for unfavorable. I just don't think it's ready for prime time. And this has the secondary benefit of putting it under our domain for the next couple of years.
And I want to commend Lori. I think she's done a phenomenal job. I think one of the positive things about this is she has, really made people aware of it and mobilized a lot of folks to really work with this. I do believe that the science is still out. I think a lot is going to happen in the next year or 2 years. I've been following this for about 10 years. And, there's still a lot of bickering scientists. There's a lot of bickering stuff. With my background, I tend to, err on the side of where Lori's coming from. But to put us, the planning board, in the position, I just don't think there's any there at this point. And I think we just need to wait for stuff to start shaking out and to get the support of the Board of Health and to have the folks at Action and the Board of Selectmen. And I think that probably will happen over time. And again, I think Lori has done a phenomenal job of getting people mobilized about it and, increasing awareness. So I too would vote not to recommend.
Any thoughts, Bill?
I echo the sentiment of all the members of the board, and the time's not right.
My only thoughts on that are planning boards do not have to. We could waive this as we could put it in the bylaws and waive it as a requirement at any time if it wasn't. But I'm old enough to remember when leaded gas was the preferred gasoline. Everybody thought that was a great thing too. I hate to find out that 5G or even 4G was leaded gas of its day. So I would be in favor of the article, knowing that the planning board would not have to enforce it if it was a bad thing. And again, I thank you for bringing the awareness, and you've certainly let the genie out of the bottle on 5G, Laurie. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor of recommending the town.
So is there a motion? There is a motion.
We're going to ask for a motion.
You want a motion?
Yeah, is there a motion to recommend the town?
I would move to recommend unfavorable action on the article.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to recommend unfavorable action. All those in favor, say aye. Start with you, Margaret. Or say opposed, no? We're recommending unfavorable. So
Unfavorable. Okay, so I am going to vote with Tom so that we have a split decision. When we go to town meeting, we'll say it was an unfavorable action with a split decision, just to make it clear to the community that this has been something that we were concerned about and debated at great length. So it will be a split decision. So it'll be 3-2. So I will say no.
Well,
does that make sense?
Yes.
I hear you. I'm going to vote yes, meaning unfavorable action.
Unfavorable?
Yes, unfavorable.
Recommend unfavorable.
Yes, unfavorable.
And I will vote no on recommending unfavorable. So it's a 3-2 planning board vote to recommend unfavorable action on the article. And again,
and Tommy, you and I are always in agreement on things, so that's just the way it is.
Dear diary. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you all
May
very
9th.
much. I really appreciate your time on this.
Thank
All
you.
right, and come back anytime.
I think maybe we'll be talking about bylaw update, and because I think that's where Sustainable Upton and the Technology Committee are very much aligned.
All right, thank you very much, Laurie.
Thank you.
So planning board discussion and action items, cancel May 9th meeting for town election. I'll accept the motion.
I move that we cancel the May 9th meeting.
Oh.
All right, moved and seconded to cancel May 9th. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Margaret?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Here, 2 ayes.
Hi, and are we rescheduling?
Didn't know which cancel.
Okay, so it'll be 2 weeks, okay.
It was a month. We're gonna meet for a month from tonight.
Okay.
So
And,
that's,
and at that time, I will be somewhere between Syracuse and Albany on my bicycle, so I won't be there.
Nice.
Well, wait.
take the scenic route, huh?
Yes. The Erie Canal.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
What is it?
Erie Canal.
Um,
I got a mule.
Are you starting in Buffalo or that area?
Oh, no, we're going to start in Syracuse. We're only going as far as Syracuse, so it's only 4
Okay.
days, 160 miles. So
You start at the university?
start at the train station, man. We're driving to Albany, putting the bikes on the train and getting off in Syracuse and riding back.
Excellent.
As you do. Anything for us? Comments? Concerns, opinions? Excuse me.
Just listen.
I do have a comment. I just want to say that, it's really nice having Grace backstopping the minutes. I do want to say that I appreciate the work you're doing. I appreciate the support. I'm not leaving you out. It's just, I've enjoyed it. It's just.
I feel slighted.
Yeah.
Immediately.
You, on the other hand.
Yeah.
So I did want to say that at a public meeting, that I just really appreciate the offers of help, I asked if she had any typos, and it's just nice to feel that I don't have to look through the whole damn tape of a meeting and look at the, figure out.
Yeah, and don't we have to, weren't we going to decide on what attachments would get put on the meetings?
I'm going to talk to Mike and.
Yeah,
Okay.
because if we've got an official filing, it doesn't come to us. There's no official filing with the planning. No town thing that we get to
But you
start
can still put an attachment to a document that has been discussed at the meeting. It would make it clearer to someone reading the
The
minutes.
reference.
But it should be filed with the town to become a legal town document. I don't think we should be putting in every document we get. Is that, I don't know, we'll have to.
Yeah,
We'll look a little bit more into it.
Before the,
Yeah.
in the month before the next meeting, and just go over the whys and the wheres and what we
Okay.
need to do, and simpler ways to do it. I think the way, doing a package beforehand.
And the easiest way is if
Yeah,
we
I
get.
love. I do want to say that, Grace. I love the Google Drive packets beforehand. I think that's really useful to be able to see the stuff in advance.
One thing to know, again, this can be a conversation that we have after, but I know Conservation Commission, they have a meeting packet and they just reference it at the end. The only reason why I listed every single document is because we don't technically have an official meeting packet. So that could be an option.
Two choices, we could make an official packet and just call it that,
Yeah.
or we could leave it out.
Mhm.
Because any document that's gonna be used in a appeal of our decision. That's the only reason we put in documents is for people to look at, usually because we got sued.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, any document by request away anyway.
Yeah, I was just gonna mention through the chair that any document that's submitted to me or to my office whether or not it's a planning board document, is a public document. It doesn't need to be stamped in by the town clerk. I mean,
But do we need to say at a planning board meeting that this is an official document that we reviewed and stamped and did this and that?
I don't
I mean,
think so. It becomes official if it's open meeting, right?
Yeah. And
I agree.
this is just references. I don't see it as a big deal. I just want to know more about the law.
sure, yeah, we can,
Because I don't want to bog people. I was looking at that list
absolutely.
and it was like, Yeah, I just wasn't, because you weren't looking
The
at it.
people that might find it most helpful is the members of the board.
That's.
How many times has that happened? Decision is a year old, and you're like, what did we do? Or what's that document
Or
say?
potential members.
Yep.
Right, and we- I had
Well,
to scramble my
Or when
computer.
you're
and-
trying to remember, was I like the whole Governor's Landing? I don't know. I can't remember if I was out for another meeting. So.
I do it with the selectmen all the time. I look back at different packages,
Yeah.
you know, since, Joe started doing select packages. It's a lot easier than it was.
So, next, I would like to, set up a little party for these two.
All right.
Oh, I'll get back to you with, well,
Be nice to do it with NCO system.
I think there's gonna be a beer involved.
All right,
Okay.
I'm in.
It worked out pretty well last time. I think when we went to Rushford. So.
The weather is cooperating.
Yep.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good
All
evening.
right.
Meeting
Thank you.